Hi everybody. Made a video about innocence before being proven guilty and discussing the law and the balance of probabilities and reasonable doubt. And yeah, there were balance of probabilities. On balance of probabilities, it's very likely, looking at the evidence on the surface and the sources that the information's coming from, quite credible sources, then it looks like we have lawful suspicion that the Saudi elite, the Saudi royal family, ordered the gruesome murder of Mr Jamal Khashoggi. Now, more evidence has come to light, and it is very, very important evidence, and we do need to take it into account, because one thing about intelligence is that you take everything into account before you come to an ultimate decision about whether there's lawful suspicion or not. Because when there's lawful suspicion, that's the point that you start making preparations for a trial, isn't it? Okay, so I'm just going to share something here, a few links here with you now. So I've been thinking about everything and looking at more information, and I think that we do need to take this information into account. I've thought about it. I think it's important evidence, and it does need to be placed on the table as to what really happened. Okay, now I remember that over the summer, you know, just around, it was around September, once at the end of September, Trump made this demand for money off Saudi Arabia, and was demanding that they produce more oil and they sell it cheaper. Okay, and Saudi Arabia saying, well, we don't owe you any money. We've paid all our money. And immediately, you know, I thought, because he actually said protection money, and I just thought, my gosh, they're just so blatant. They really are a mob at the White House right now, demanding protection money off people. Now, one of the things about when somebody demands protection money, you know, when you get a mob demanding protection money, say off a local business, and they go in and they say, we want protection money. And so the business is like, what are you on about? I don't need any protection. I don't need to pay you any protection money. Okay? I've got my protection, I've got my bouncers, I've paid for them all, I'm paying the wages. Why do we need to pay you anything? And then a couple of weeks later, a gang of thugs arrive and smash the place up. Oh, all right then, yeah, here's your protection money, here's your protection money. So, and I do remember when Trump was making that covert threat, which I did feel that it was a covert threat, and I was thinking, well, is it a covert threat, or am I just making more out of this situation than is actually there? And but at the same time, I was thinking, you know, one of the things that made me think that, well, no, I think you're making too much of it, is because I was thinking, well, what can Trump do to Saudi Arabia? You know, what can America do to Saudi Arabia? What, are they going to go in and bomb them or something? Like, how are they going to damage Saudi Arabia, you know, in the way that the mob does when a business owner has refused to pay their protection money? It's not like America could just go in and start bombing Saudi Arabia, is it? So I was a bit perplexed, and I was thinking, I wonder what they're going to do. And then next minute, this horror has been thrust upon us, and the gruesome details, which are just heartbreaking to even think about. But we've all had to think about it, haven't we? And it has brought it home to us exactly what is going on in Saudi Arabia. Because whether or not Saudi Arabia is guilty directly of this crime, the fact is that all such horrors as were committed against Jamal are regularly committed against the Saudi people. And we need to remember, you know, that the Saudi people are very, very oppressed, and many are living in fear and terror. You know, it's a country that regularly chops people's heads off and things like this. So it's perfectly feasible. You know, we know that Saudi Arabian officials are perfectly capable of committing such an atrocious act. Now, looking at the evidence, okay, we have this, you see. UAE contracted an American hit squad to kill political, that's the United Arab Emirates, to kill political figures and more in Yemen. Now we know that the corporate military are already training in the United Arab Emirates, and I've shared that information in a previous video. That's a fact. They're there training, okay? And they're participating in actions in the Yemen because they're training. They're getting experience, okay? Now, look, you know, what's here? Assassinations. Okay. We've got these, really what we must call rogue military assassin units that really can be employed anywhere by anybody. So if the United Arab Emirates can contract an American hit squad to go and target and kill Yemen politicians, then equally that same hit squad could be employed by America, couldn't they? And who could they contract? You know, because if you've got these corporate military that have connections to America in the United Arab Emirates, in with all their intelligence, it is perfectly feasible that these people could somehow issue an order to go and kill Mr Khashoggi at the Arab consulate, the Saudi consulate in Turkey, because American intelligence knows what's going on, okay? They knew the guy was in Turkey. They knew that he was going to the consulate. They've got inside information. It's intelligence. That's what they do. They're watching all the time, everything. And now, perhaps somehow a false command. You know, this is possible. It's not just possible. It could even be probable. It's well within the scale of the balance of probabilities. When you look at reality, when you look at the evidence, it's well within the balance of probabilities that an order was given to a Saudi intelligence, a Saudi kill squad, or a Saudi kill squad was organised through false information from who? One party within Saudi intelligence saying this order has come from the royal family. They want this man killed. He's in Turkey. He's going into the Turkey consulate and such a day. You've got to go and kill him. And Turkey's ready there, apparently ready to record it all and tell us exactly what's happened. They haven't released the tapes yet. Personally, I would not want to listen to them. It is enough just to hear the details of it. I really couldn't listen to it. And I don't think that it should be released, because it's the equivalent of a snuff video or sound recording, isn't it? You know, sadists of this world love stuff like that, and it really just feeds them. Now, as I say, it's perfectly within the balance of probabilities that because Saudis said, no, we're not paying you 100 million. We've had all the weapons we need off you. We're not buying another 100 billion worth of weapons. But then America contrives, the American military and corporate intelligence contrived to create this situation that deeply embarrasses Saudi Arabia, because suddenly it's all out in the open. You know, Saudi Arabia's legal system, suddenly it's in our face, isn't it? Through what they've done in Turkey. Now, it could be that the Saudi royal family themselves, which, you know, I'm not saying this to say, oh, you know, they're really innocent and actually they're really nice people. We know that they operate a very draconian system of law, which, again, I will request the Saudi royal family to please get real according to the reality of Islam. You know, because Islam is a progressive faith. It grows with humanity. That's why you do need to incorporate new knowledge, not just the technology, but the social knowledge. Okay? The advances that we've made in our social being and the kind of society that we consider humane. Like, for example, human rights, which includes women's rights and children's rights. And, you know, perhaps you would do well to have a look at these, Saudi Arabia, and turn over a new leaf. Because, you know, like I say, what is the point of, you know, vengeance now? Because this is what the world has tolerated. The world has, for decades, been quite happy to allow Saudi Arabia to, you know, deny its citizens human rights and still do business with them. Unlike Cuba, who must be punished because they've decided they don't want the corporation. And they're still being punished. Actually, because they've established human rights. Okay, so they're being punished for the fact that they've established human rights. Same as Venezuela. Venezuela is being punished because the people have elected a government that upholds their human rights to dignity and respect and to have a living wage. So, you know, America now is hell-bent on making sure that the Venezuelan people are suffering, you see. So, it is perfectly possible that this is part of, like, give us the protection money. And lo and behold, what happens, you know, was it last Tuesday? Oh, suddenly, Saudi Arabia has wired 100 million to America. 100 million on Tuesday. A few days after this atrocity has happened at the Saudi consulate in Turkey. And, you know, now suddenly, oh yes, they are going to be spending 100 billion. Because straight away that this happened, immediately, Donald Trump was talking about 100 billion that Saudi was going to spend. Now, prior to that, Saudi Arabia had bought a certain amount of military equipment from America and paid its bill. But Donald Trump immediately said, no, you know, we've got 100 billion, because that's what he hopes, that is what these warmongers hope to screw out of the Arab people now, isn't it? Because if the Saudi elite are expected to spend 100 billion on buying weapons now from America, in order for America to protect them and stand by this story that, oh, well, you know, it was because he started a fight and it all went horribly wrong. I mean, the story that they've given us is absolutely ridiculous, and it really is insulting. It's insulting to our intelligence, and that is what they're doing. They are literally laughing in our faces with their crap and filth. And it is America, and it is Britain. Britain and America and the Zionists of Israel are responsible for the very fact that Saudi Arabia has been kept backward. It's been encouraged. It's been facilitated. And now, well, basically, they've been covertly held to ransom, haven't they? Nobody's had to phone them up and say, oh, you better do this, do it. It's like, well, you know, if you want us to protect you, then we will stand with you, and Britain will stand with you, and Israel will stand with you, as long as you are prepared now to commit to spending 100 billion over the next couple of years. And we want 100 million right now. We want our protection money. And we'll protect you. Because Trump's got the audacity to do it, hasn't he? He's got the audacity to tell barefaced lies. And, you know, now we've got Israel getting in on the picture as well, haven't we? So, you know, if we go to this here, Abbas rival hired Israeli mercenary to assassinate United Arab Emirates enemies in Yemen. So, you know, we know that Mossad is involved as well. And Israel has been involved in this attack against the people of Yemen. A Saudi-led coalition airstrike. The coalition is America and Israel. Israel is helping the Saudis. Israel, who apparently hates ISIS and Muslims and, you know, considers them all such a threat, and we're all supposed to be terrified of them. But at the same time, they're perfectly happy to do dealings with the kind of people who have been encouraged, really, to abide by an antiquated legal system, which you could hardly call it a legal system. Their legal system is actually a crime against humanity. But that's okay, the whole world will do trade with them. Okay? So, you know, going back to the balance of probabilities now, was this whole thing orchestrated by American and Israeli intelligence, who somehow fooled Arab intelligence operatives to get a kill squad together, believing that they're acting on orders from the Saudi royal family, specifically in order to embarrass them, and thereafter it's like, well, you know, you better cough up some money, because otherwise you've got the whole world at your throats. But don't worry, we'll stand with you, and we'll give you this ridiculous explanation, which will be obviously completely ridiculous. But don't worry, you just keep paying us the money, and we'll keep standing by you. And, you know, nobody's going to say anything. You can tell the people barefaced lies, because look, I'm Mr Trump. I'm doing it all the time. I'm just lying. I'll punch somebody in the face and sue them because of the fact their face has hurt my hand. That is exactly the kind of rhetoric that Guy and Trump supporters are coming out with. This, you know, the Me Too organisation, the Me Too movement has suddenly become the Him Too. This is the kind of tactics that they use, and they're riding high on it. It's called spin, okay? Spinning the truth to suit themselves. What we're looking at ultimately is absolute corruption to such a degree that they're all complicit. America and Israel are equally complicit in the murder of Mr Khashoggi as Saudi Arabia. because America's now profiting off it, aren't they? Because like I say, immediately, you know, a few days later, there they are, you know, giving Trump money, isn't it? Trump's getting his 100 million straight away. After Saudi Arabia had said in no uncertain terms, when he first started going on about this 100 million, like what you're talking about, we've already paid, we bought our weapons, we paid for them, we don't need protection from America. Oh, suddenly they do. This happens, suddenly they do. I mean, it doesn't exonerate, like I say, it doesn't totally exonerate Saudi Arabia because we know that they're perfectly capable of committing such actions, and obviously the guy with the bone saw had done it multiple times before, because he said, you know, I usually find wearing headphones helps. Advises them all to put headphones on. Listen to music while you're chopping somebody up, while they're alive. Because you wouldn't need headphones with music on while you're chopping somebody up while they're dead, would you? It's easier if you can drown out their screams with some loud, what? Rock music. What music do they listen to? You know, these people, this is the common approach to their legal system. This is what this world is responsible for raising and maintaining in Saudi Arabia. The powers of this world have done that. The powers of this world are responsible for it. Because the powers of this world have not in any way encouraged Saudi Arabia or assisted them to move forward in their public policy, have they? They've said to them, you carry on. As long as you're giving us lots of money and oil and you buy it, you're spending your money on us. And now, somehow, Saudi Arabia has a huge debt. How is that possible? How is it possible for Saudi Arabia to have a huge debt to such a degree that apparently this prince needs to, you know, shake down members of the royal family to get how many billions out of them? Was it 100 billion exactly you got out of them? Because the country's facing a financial crisis. Oh, but they've got 100 billion to give to America. No, there's something really fucked up going on here. And, you know, it really does look to me like Saudi Arabia itself now is a victim of the very people that they've been playing, you know, that they thought were their friends, you know. But the Rasta man warns everybody, your worst enemy could be your best friend, and your best friend could be your worst enemy. And when people follow a faith and they don't actually take heed for the reality of that faith, you know, they are going to trip up. They're going to be easy targets. And Saudi Arabia's just walked right into that. Well, if anything good can come out of it, is that Saudi Arabia suddenly realises reality, gets with reality, and gets in with the 21st century. Stops the war in Yemen, starts helping the people of Yemen. Instead of giving America 100 billion, tell America to get lost and spend that 100 billion on repairing Yemen and your own people. And create a paradise in Saudi Arabia for all your citizens. You know, there's this Terra Preta. I've shared it before. Terra Preta, you really check it out. Get your scientists, you've got scientists, haven't you, Saudi Arabia? Get your scientists, check it out. This stuff could fertilise your desert. You're already bringing in water from the sea and desalinating it. So you've got plenty of water that you can desalinate and feed, refertilise the deserts. You can grow hemp first of all. Hemp will grow on the poorest soil, and it will actually fertilise the soil and strengthen it. These are the things that you've got, that you need, that Saudi Arabia needs to start focusing on, instead of playing these military war games at behest of United States and Israel. These are the things that need to be done. Like I say, vengeance, forget it. Right? We can't be wasting time on hate and vengeance. We need to understand that it's hatred, it's oppression that has created and facilitated a nation like Saudi Arabia, so that it remains, its legal system remains stuck in 650 AD. Well, in fact, even before that, pre-600 AD, because, you know, Sharia law was not created by Islam. That's the fact. It was a common law throughout the Middle East. That was the way things worked. People got stoned to death. They had limbs chopped off. A similar legal system was operating in Europe. People were having hands chopped off for stealing centuries and centuries ago. Okay? What Islam did was include the right to forgive, didn't it? And the right to take everything into account. The right to compensate. That is what Islam did. So Saudi Arabia, you need to compensate, right? The way that, and this is advice, you need to compensate the people of Yemen. You need to compensate the family of Jamal Khashoggi, which obviously nothing, no amount of money on this earth could really compensate for what has happened to him. But nonetheless, you're going to have to make some form of compensation. You're going to need to beg forgiveness of the family. And if that family are a true Muslim family, they will take everything into account and understand that, yeah, this guy, he's been born in this country that's been ruled for centuries by Britain and now America, and really he hasn't been educated in the ways of true Islam. He's been allowed to live unfettered in his twisted, antiquated version of Islam. He's been told that's right, that he's superior, you know. So we're talking about somebody that's basically been brainwashed. The Saudi royal family, like the British royal family, are born into psychological abuse, because although people wouldn't recognise it as abuse because they live in a life of luxury, but the fact is they've been psychologically conditioned to accept a fantasy as reality. The fantasy that they are superior human beings and they are actually Islamic. And you know, when people have been brainwashed, then really the only way is to give them a chance now to accept the truth of their own humanity, to accept the truth of Islam, which is a way of peace, a way of mercy, a way of kindness. Where was any of that for Mr Khashoggi? Or for any of the people who are presently locked up or awaiting execution because of a post on Facebook. So, you know, like I say, I just wanted to share this information because, like, it is more evidence on the table. It's something to take into account on the balance of probabilities when we have, you know, hit squads. When we know that there's corporate militaries who have got tentacles reaching right into the United Arab Emirates, into Saudi Arabia, into their intelligence, who could quite easily issue a false order that the people, the kill squad, would think, oh, it's come from the royal family, when actually it hasn't. you know. And this is the kind of world we're living in. So that would mean then, wouldn't it, that actually America and Israel are responsible for what happened to Jamal Khashoggi. Saudi Arabia as well, for the simple fact that that's what the kind of legal system it operates. And if an order comes from the royal family that go and kill this man at the Turkish consulate in this manner, they will go off and do it. And they're quite used to doing that. They're quite used to chopping off limbs. It doesn't seem a bizarre request. You know, I think if you're going to prosecute somebody, if you're going to have lawful suspicion against somebody, then, you know, on the balance of probabilities, then if it's such a gruesome, terrible act, then you need to know all the parties who are responsible for it, because all those parties are equally a risk, aren't they? So it's no good, like, just pointing the finger at one member of that party, when actually, on the balance of probabilities, there is lawful suspicion that American corporate military could be involved in this directly, with orders from Trump. Or even, or Netanyahu, Israel. So the picture's getting bigger, isn't it? And what about UK intelligence? So, you know, that is what I wanted to share. I think it's only fair to take this into account, to put this on with the balance of probabilities. Okay? To support lawful suspicion. Because until there's a trial, until there's some sort of a trial, maybe at the UN, to consider this evidence, then nobody can say, well, this or that is guilty or not. We know it happened. We know that it was Saudi intelligence, it was a Saudi kill squad that did this. But really, on whose orders were they really operating? And who has immediately profited from it? Who has immediately received $100 million and a promise now of $100 billion more to be spent on American military? So anyway, thank you for taking time to listen. I hope that people absorb this information, and, you know, we start thinking very seriously now about what position we're in. And like I say, you know, to all the professional people out there, you're going to have to really get real now. And you are going to have to, especially if you're working, as I've said before, in law, in the military, in police, in intelligence, you're going to have to choose a side. Are you on the side of Luciferian law, of might equals right to do as thy will? Or are you on the side of universal law, of right equals might to do as thy will? Okay? Right being that you're a person that honours and values human rights, and animal rights, and earth rights, and a child's rights, and women's rights, and a worker's rights. Are you a human being or not? That's the choice.